according to. Hi, I'm Sam Hayes, and this is Why with One Stop. This is our end of the month monthly review of what went wrong. Here's the things that happened and that I saw that were a little bit out of the ordinary and how we fixed them to be ready for moving forward. As always, verify everything with the broker of record on the file you're working on. I'll go ahead and share with you what I experienced on files that I was working on. Paper files. I know right now, due to lack of inventory, we have a lot of different individuals who maybe are not as tech savvy. And if you're going to be having a file done that you need paper files, please let your TC know as soon as possible. This way, it lets us prepare the packet for you. Different TCs may charge. I do not. To me, it actually benefits me to know that I've put everything together. I've highlighted it for you. I've prepped it. I typically stack the hard question ones in the front. So you got signatures in the back, separate out the booklets, make it as easy as possible, include an agent's visual for you to complete while you're there at the property. Have you bring it all back or I'll pick it up from you. We get it scanned in, double check everything. Easy peasy. We're ready ahead of time. Paper transactions, when we have individuals that need to wet sign, will add time to the transaction. You need to account for and expect a day to 2 days to return documents on these transactions. That's not a problem. We just need to be aware of it. I actually can have things picked up if you need. I luckily have support of my family so that if I can't go, my husband can go, and we can make sure that we get those docs over as quickly as possible, get them scanned in, try and help out. I took care of my grandmother for a very, very long time. I helped her with a lot of paperwork. One, yes, I would make her sign in triplicate because that's how we are in this family. But two, I understand it may take a little bit longer. Nobody looks at this every day the way we do, and that's fine. But let's give them that grace by being prepared, getting ahead of it. So if you've got paper files or you've got a wet signer, let's get way ahead of it. Let's make sure you know as soon as you're taking the listing, let's do everything possible to let them relax, breathe, and have patience so they have time to remember and fill out the forms correctly. Not a problem. Happy to do it. Give me a call though and let me know as soon as possible. Trustees. Oh my goodness. We've had a few adventures on trustees this month as well. When the trust originator is still alive, so if somebody has created the trust, it's for their benefit, they are still living, but they may be in a situation where they're a little bit more incapacitated. They may not be as savvy or together. Get the 2 doctor letters. You need to get those before you even take the listing, or if you take the listing, hold it off the market till you do. This has come up time and time again. Title's going to have questions. Let's get title involved the second you know you've got a trustee that may be a little bit less comfortable doing the documents. Maybe there's family that'll be supporting them. Let's set everybody up for success by getting the answers or getting questions answered ahead of time. Get our title partners involved. That's why they're here. Let's have them take a look at the trust, advise us. Unfortunately, I ran into multiple situations this month where either we had trust documents where it said only one trustee was required, where that changed and had to go back and have the second trustee sign everything. We had situations of sharing email addresses because that's how they do things and trying to document that. Because remember, an electronic signature is the same as a wet signature. We want to make sure that we can prove and show a trail through the IP address and the email addresses that 2 separate individuals signed. So you really don't want to be sharing email addresses whenever possible. Sometimes title and escrow won't accept the electronic signatures because of a shared email. Things we need to think about if you're working with some older and less savvy clients when it comes to technology and the electronics. We're so used to it because we do it all day long, we forget. And that puts them in a position where they can become fearful, because anger comes from a place of being fearful and scared. And if we can eliminate that and help know and do our best to be of service at all times for our clients by walking through, taking a few extra moments, getting prepared to handle this, knowing it's going to be a slightly longer escrow, being savvy, don't shorten your time frames, don't rush everybody. Well, we got to get the deal done. If we're doing that, then let's get it together as a team and have a plan. The more you can circle myself, title, the trustees in, if there are healthcare providers that need to be involved, anybody there's a family member that's going to be sitting with them, whatever we need to do, let's keep the communication open and go for the highest and best, which is to serve our client. That's always supposed to be the priority of what we do. That's our fiduciary. By doing that, we need to step back, look at the process, look at how we do the process, analyze if that's not going to work for them and how we can adjust accordingly. Or maybe it's just not a transaction you want to take part in. That's something you'll need to decide on a case by case basis. The other issue I've got, the seller property replacement property. When the timelines start? I had a deal. Timelines didn't start till the seller identified the replacement property. No problem. That's what the deal was. We got everything else over. We went ahead. I wanted to be ahead of it. We got disclosures done, everything so that when they did identify the property, we could maybe expedite and speed up the transaction. Well, escrow didn't double check the box. The other TC didn't double check the box. And suddenly everybody was trying to close way sooner than they were supposed to. The buyer's agent requested an ETA sign to keep the loan going. Agent said, let's do this. It was a mess. Double check all the little tiny boxes, double check and make sure everybody's on the same page. Do timelines start? Do timelines not start? We are doing this now to be ready, but timelines have not started. Reiterate, we're all going at 1,000 miles an hour. It's go, 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 because we're getting back to being busy again, which is wonderful. But I think some of the old school things have slipped out of our grasp, and it's good to go back and practice. Just double check your work, double check the file, make notes, have a cheat sheet, know what's going on each one of your files. Oh, not doing disclosures during the listing. Can I beg you? I beg you on behalf of all TCs out. I beg you, beg you, beg you. Please, as soon as you get your listing, let your escrow, your title, and your TC partners know what's going on. That goes with a trust. That's if you get a probate. That's if it's a regular sale. Then, as one of my lender friends pointed out, we can start asking for the solar docs. We can start making sure that we've got all the reports. All the supportive things that they had, all their receipts are not packed up in a pod on their way to Missouri. The more we can get ahead of this, the calmer the transaction will be, the more secure your seller will feel. And that again circles back to this whole thing about service. Right now, one of the ways you can differentiate yourself in transactions is service. We know there's so much going on in the industry with the changes. The more we can step apart and show, yes, you're right. This is what we should be doing for our due diligence. Yes, this is every step of the transaction, but here's how I'm going to do it different. I'm going to meet your needs. I'm going to meet you where you are, and I'm going to support you and make sure you understand what's going on. We do that by getting the listing, getting the contract. Even if you're writing an offer and we don't know if it'll be accepted, I'd rather know and be in the loop. I want to eyeball it real quick. What if I see something you didn't mean to include or did include? I don't know. Have your broker look at it. Have your team leader look at it. It doesn't hurt to have somebody double check. We're all, when you have a different set of eyes, it's just outside of, we're not thinking the same thing you are, where you may assume things and you don't want to do that. Documentation is the whole point of our transactions. Why I have a job. I'm sitting here trying to make sure I have a defendable file. Well, to defend that file, I've got to have everything in writing. To get everything in writing, I got to know what's going on. So the sooner you get me involved, I can get in the flow of things, take a look at the situation for that specific transaction and property, and help support you. Out-of-date forms. Oh my, I got a blue form. I got one of those old school in triplicate, those of us that are old enough to remember, 21 years next month, where you had to press real hard and everybody got a really terrible copy. I actually got one of those scanned over, and it was a 2001. I didn't start to 2003. Double check your forms. Don't be pulling old stuff. When people are jumping in saying, I can help you, make sure you've got the current forms. If you don't have access to them, talk to your broker. If you're a broker, spend the money and go ahead and sign up for this one transaction. E&O typically will not cover you if you are not using the most up-to-date forms, and laws have changed. That'll be one of the presentations I'll be doing, again, is to refresh that I did earlier in January. What are the new laws? And some of them are going to effect now in April, and then some are going to effect in July. Plus, we're going to have all new forms coming in June. You need to make sure you're on the most current form. That is the only way the car protections are there in place for you, as well as double check, but typically your E&O will only cover you. No blue forms. It must have been in the back of somebody's trunk. I don't know. I don't know where it came from. Appraisal. That was another fun one. We had some questions about some buyers, or excuse me, some sellers wanting to see the appraisal. The only time per the contract for the appraisal to be shared with the seller is if you have an FHA, VA, where there are repairs called out, or if it didn't appraise and you still have an appraisal contingency. The appraisal is not considered one of the investigations that has to be handed over to a seller the way all the other ones, anything that's done, estimates, all of that on the property. Something to keep in mind when they want to see, well, I want to know how much. It's not their business. It's a quote for that day, for that individual, for that situation. We don't get to have it. We just need to know about the price and if it appraised at the price. That's per the RPA. If you need to get into details for your specific transaction, that's when you're going to want to loop in your team leader, your broker, whoever's your file checker advisor, your TC. Let's take a look at it and see why. And we can show them the screenshots of where it is in the RPA. I believe it was RPA section. What was it? It was 10, and there was another one. I just had to pull that up for somebody. I should have written that down. I'll put that in my notes. Escrow friends, escrow officers, loop in your TCs. We can't help you track down something if we don't know it's in process. We don't know if you don't know how to contact the clients, call us, email us, do something. We'll get you in contact with them. If we think you already have the information, we're not going to understand why stuff's running late because you didn't get a hold of the client. We'll happily help, but I need to know there's a problem. So as long as you CC me on all communications to the agent and to the client, I can be watching that and see what's going on so I can help. Maybe see ahead of time, or is there a disconnect or follow up, or maybe maybe I have a missing piece you need and we can keep the transaction going forward. I know you're busy. I'm busy. It doesn't mean I'd rather have 30,000 emails with the property address in the subject line to go ahead and be able to sort through. And then I can get to that for you and I can support you. Please feel free to always call the TC, talk to the TC. We're here to support each other because honestly, without the agents, neither of us have a job. So let's make sure we're working as a team together to make our agents look like rock stars and keep us all going forward. Just because the buyer is not ready to remove the contingency, that doesn't make it not due. These are contracts and these dates are written down. This is what's agreed to. This is in the contract. Well, the buyer's not ready. Well, we don't have this. Okay, that's great. I need to document that we've all agreed to extend it. If not, that's why you had a time period to get the item or the work done. Make sure you are documenting everything. Part of why we're getting into these huge changes in our industry is there was so much that was verbal, or it was a quick text, or somebody didn't follow up on stuff. That's why we got to stop, take a breath, and do the annoying, the extra. We need it meeting of the minds. We need proof. We need signed documents ahead of time. If you know you're running late on the appraisal, don't wait till the date of removal of contingency. Let's talk about it. And yes, I understand. Well, they got a bigger backups offer, Sam, and I got to stretch this out. How do you feel when somebody does that to you? It really puts a damper on the transaction. It dampers your ability to negotiate and be at your highest and best fiduciary. Transparency and communication go a really long way, and doing it before everybody's panic and stressed because the seller's waiting to leg up, or they needed the cash, or they were waiting because of this date to start signing a lease. All of that. Hire the moving truck. You're delaying everything. You are causing the delay within the transaction by not being transparent and communicating the needs on both sides. That's why we're all salespeople. That's why we take negotiation, have the skill set, negotiate, find the win-win, and work together. But this holding back and going, oh, no, it doesn't count. That's not how this works. We issued a notice to perform, and the admin on the other side said, well, the buyer can't remove the appraisal, so this is invalid. No, my notice to perform is not invalid. You may need an extension of time, but our notice to perform is still valid because we're within timeframes of what was contractually agreed to. Whenever in question, we always circle back to that contract. That is our guide that is going to walk us through what's going on. Swapping out forms. That was a fun one. So also double check. You know, when you think you've sent over a form and everything's great and they're just signing it, getting it back, double check them immediately. Unfortunately, I had somebody pull a fast one on an ETA and a contingency removal that were not the set I sent over, renumbered, renamed, matched the dates, which were invalid because they returned them to me on a different date. I know it's messy out there. I know we're all stressed. I know we're a little nervous about the changes that are coming up. I know it's been a very hard 18, 24 months. I feel ya. Me too. Doesn't change. I want to be ethical, and it doesn't change doing your due diligence, and it doesn't change needing a defendable file. Don't play fast and loose. This is too big a time for liability. Already, realtors have their own, let's just say, energy right now in the media and everything else. Don't play up to stereotypes. Circle back to that communication and transparency. It's going to be a game changer. It's definitely going to help you be better at your job and get you those referrals and all the other things because you did right by your client. Don't play games. Let's just do some good real estate and do some good deals. We had titles. Oh yeah, double check on that title stuff. That was really the other big one. If you're not paying my TC fee, you got to let me know. It either needs to be in the listing agreement or in the buyer representation broker compensation. If I don't know myself and typically most TCs, we're going to assume you're paying for us. Or if there's an agreement through your brokerage, if it's an in-house TC. When you tell me, well, the buyer's paying for this and we're now almost to docs, that's going to change the estimate, which is going to delay, or it may no longer be approved by the lender. I need to know as soon as we open the escrow, and so does escrow. The lender does too. We all need to know. It doesn't mean it can't happen, but we need to know. This hiding it in, or oh, well, it's already, oh, I don't want to ask him for more. Get used to asking for stuff. Get used for documenting what costs are. That's again why we're dealing with these huge changes and new rules coming on in July. We need to show this is how much you're paying. This is what it's for. This is why we're doing it. I'm happy to talk to any of your clients ahead of time. I'm happy to send over my resume and presentation. I can explain what I do, how I support you, everything else. But the sliding it in and making it kind of last minute, I'm going to need to get paid because you've hired me. Do you want to take care of that? Or if that's something you've negotiated with your client, that's fine, but it needs to be addressed as soon as possible. Transparency and communication. That's kind of the theme of March. Transparency and communication. We need to know what's going on. I think those are all my major ones. It definitely has been an adventure. I learned my own we're selling some of our own family properties this month, and it's definitely been a learning curve about trying to keep things going and how everybody works a little bit differently. How do you work? What have you seen? What went wrong for you? What's making you crazy out there? Maybe we can work together about doing a presentation or one of these Thursday videos to talk about it. Let's get around it. Let's get ahead of it. Thank you as always for joining me. I'm here every Thursday, 12:30. I'm Sam Hayes, One Stop Transaction Services. As always, verify everything with the broker of record of the file you're working on. You can reach me at 619-993-7264. I'm happy to talk about this stuff, even if I'm not the TC on the file. Have a great day. Thanks for being here.